Steven, good morning.
Hey, good morning. How are you?
Doing great. It's so good to see you this morning and to have this opportunity to speak with you today about our new Yext integration. And we'd love to thank everybody who's joined us today for the webinar. And we'll give everyone about 30 or 45 seconds to join, and then we'll get started with the presentation. But Steven, let us know who you are and why you're here today.
Yeah, thanks, Adrian. So I'm Steven Sorenson. I'm a product manager here with Smartling, and I get the wonderful, I'm thankful for the opportunity to work on many of our integrations into other applications that people use to create their digital content. So I help oversee those, the development of those and the release of those.
And you've been on a tear recently. We've recently introduced the Yext integration, which we're going to talk about today, the Episerver integration, and upgraded Drupal integration now to support Drupal 9. And we also introduced a rewritten Zendesk integration last week so that customers can take advantage of even more products and services that we offer through the CAT tool and through the translation management system.
Yeah, it's been a good years for us. At least the second half of the year has been a lot of stuff, a lot of balls in the air, and a lot of development going on, and we're really excited about releasing all of these items.
Awesome. Well, today we are going to focus on the Yext integration. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm particularly excited about this one because I think that search is really important today, and we're going to talk a little bit, Steven, about why search is so important. But for those of you who don't know, Yext is an incredibly important tool because what they do is they enable enterprise businesses, organizations to store information about their business in a centrally located platform and then distribute the information to all of the places where people are going to search, like Google Maps or Siri, your own website, things like that. And so what Yext does is it's a central repository for all of the questions and answers that a customer may have about your business. So it's a really cool and scalable way for companies to interact with their customers, no matter where they're looking for information. And of course, it's really important that that content then be translated because, of course, users aren't only searching in one language. So we're excited to introduce the first translation integration to be listed on the Yext App Directory. And I think it's important, Steven, that we talk a little bit about why this is important. And this is the question that comes to my mind, which is, well, what happens when you search for something and get inconsistent information?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing people struggle with is, if they are, especially in a time like now where we're having, COVID-19 is very rampant around the US and causing a lot of people to, have to do things out of the norm. You're going to want to search for hotels that maybe have certain things or have certain offerings, or maybe you want to have a restaurant that does takeout. You need to know that before you go, or has dine-in maybe before you go in. And so, managing all of this information for these properties and these stores can be cumbersome. And if you don't have it updated and accurate, people are going to have, a bad experience when they come there and they've gotten misled information off of the website or off of Google. And so that's frustrating for them.
100%. And we're going to actually show a couple examples of this. But, to me, Steven, there are 4 attributes of search that are incredibly important. And the first is that information about a business changes regularly. And I'm going to go into detail on each of these in a minute. The second is that getting information to where listing details are communicated is essential, and it has to be scalable. For example, it's impossible to update every single directory like Google Maps and Apple Maps and your own app. The content also has to be customized based on where it's being served. And finally, search results are served to people who are ready to buy. So it has an immediate impact and tangible impact on results. So let's dive into each of these. The information is changing regularly. And I think, Steven, this year out of any, information about businesses has changed more quickly than ever before, right?
Yep, exactly. And it has to change all the time, back and forth on the fly, based off of restrictions in your area or by your leaders in your area.
Yeah. So, this means that featured messages may be changing. For example, if it was a restaurant using Yext, maybe it would be that, they were announcing outdoor dining, or they announced indoor dining at a certain capacity, and that was in their featured message. Maybe their business hours changed. Maybe the product information or availability of a certain product changed. There could be policies or payment options or phone numbers that are changing. They're really like dozens of data points that could change. And it also depends on your business and what domain you're in. So the information that may be changing regularly and that you need to support in a listing technology like Yext is it's incredibly important that you address this at scale. And it's important that you address it at scale because you're going to be distributing this information across multiple distribution points. So I actually went into Google Maps, Apple Maps, and IHG's own application and searched for the same exact hotel. And you can see that across each of these different applications, there is slightly different information that's being conveyed, but it's all relatively the same as well. For example, if you do a drill down on the content and you want to see the amenities of a particular property, these are the types of data points that would be stored in Yext. And when I go to search for a hotel, I always look for pet-friendly amenities because I like to travel with my dog Fitz. And if that information was not accurate and up to date and distributed across all of the points that a consumer may be searching, well, then it's very possible that the consumer may book their hotel night somewhere else.
Yep.
The distribution of the knowledge network, which we're going to talk about, that's Yext's product that we integrate with, is vast. It could be maps, and there are lots of different mapping technologies out there. It could be applications, search engines like Google. It could be GPS systems like ones that are in your car or that you can buy as an aftermarket product. And it could be social networks like your Facebook listing, which is a really important place to list information about your business. The last piece that we wanted to talk about as to why search is important is that customizing your content is becoming even more important. And this information is drawn from a Yext ebook that we reviewed, and the research and the leaders in this space are demonstrating that natural language search is becoming more important. So like, where do I buy a coffee near me? Conversational in nature, meaning the searches that users are creating are not coffee open now. It's what I said earlier, which is where can I find a coffee, in Soho or, in San Francisco's, Haight district. These are the types of things that people are searching for now. And then lastly, the experience that people are consuming is changing and is vast. There are a lot of new types of experiences, whether they're widgets within products or carousels with images or videos. There are knowledge panels, and there's just a lot of different type of content. And in order for you to be competitive, it's really important that all of this is up to date. The last element as to why search is really important is that it has an immediate impact on results. Marriott, which is a customer of Yext, reported that over 6 months, the revenue generated from room nights attributed to Yext represented a 47-to-1 return on investment for US hotels and a 28-to-1 return on investment globally. So without a doubt, Yext is driving business value for customers. And one of the ways that you're able to create business value for your global audience is to make sure that content is translated. I like this quote from Florent at Marriott, who says that Yext is the tool that will help keep our brand information up to date and consistent across web and allow us to keep scaling our local SEO efforts. So important in today's world, right, Steven?
Yep, 100%. And I think it gets even more difficult. We can get into the values here in just a moment, but it gets more difficult as you want to scale this into more languages. And there's more and more content to manage, right?
100%. And that's why we built the integration. So why don't you talk a little bit about what the process was to your building the integration and what it actually does?
Yeah, so we had a couple of customers that really helped sponsor this and had really strong use cases for what we needed to work against and what we needed to develop against. They basically are using Yext to manage property information of many locations. These are hotels and various work buildings and things like that that they own. And they need to make sure that hours of operation are up to date, descriptions of what these buildings or places do, or all kinds of information that's stored inside of their Yext. And inside of Yext, you have the knowledge graph, which is kind of the main tool where you manage these locations and you update the content for them and you save them. You can organize them and kind of structure them the way you want. And this is where you do all the management of it. And so what those locations are actually served up through all of the other products that Yext offers. So they have, answers and questions and reviews and kind of website pages and a lot of various different products that they offer. And they all pull those locations inside and use them and display them for some purpose. So locations is kind of like their central piece, like it's the kind of the main piece that they work with. And so we needed to develop, translation support for these locations essentially, and that's what we've done so far. We can go to the next slide if you want. And the biggest values that you get out of this integration is, and what they were looking for, these organizations we're working with, is they couldn't keep up with the amount of work going on to manage the updates and the new properties that are getting created frequently inside of their Yext environment. So the biggest thing was scale, right? They needed a way that they could automate this flow and the sending of translations and keeping track of what's out of sync, because they couldn't keep up with the amount of changes. So the automation that we've implemented in the integration and the tools that we've given them allows them to scale this into more languages, more properties, and less people to manage the overall process. So that was the number one benefit that they had. This also introduces, now that we're integrated with Smartling, we can also now introduce more options for translation, for professional translation, where we can now hire our linguists and contract with our linguists that can help you. If you don't have the bandwidth to do all the translations, or you don't have the in-house people to do all the translations for these new languages, or you want to go into new regions and you just need to get started, you can use Smartling's professional language services to help you, perform the translations and scale. Now, the other thing here is you no longer have to be hesitant to make updates. I think some of these organizations were having a hard time, allowing opening the floodgate to make all these changes inside of Yext, because they always knew it came with a whole bunch of updates, a whole bunch of translations that were hard to manage and really cumbersome. And so making the automated process in place makes it now easy for them to keep up with this stuff and makes their lives much more manageable.
Awesome. Yeah, I think that this is incredible value that the integration's delivering to digital marketers. And that's an important note, by the way. If you're not a digital marketer and you don't know who would own Yext at your organization, it would typically be owned by somebody who is managing search engine optimization or digital marketing at your company. If you're a localization manager, I would go to your directory and find somebody who is in the digital marketing department and just invite them to take a look at this integration, because they're probably suffering big time right now with scaling their content into multiple languages. Perhaps you're already working with them on this, which is great. But if you're not, send them a link to this webinar, send them a link to the landing page about this integration, because they're going to be really excited to see that they can take their Yext content and start scaling it into multiple languages without the friction of copying and pasting into a spreadsheet, which we're all so tired of. Steven, what about the overview of this integration should we know as it relates to the technical specifications of what we've built?
Yeah, so this is pretty straightforward. Yext is an online, SaaS application. It's based cloud-based, so it's always, producing new versions, releasing those automatically. So we always stay, in sync with the Yext environment, and so as they release new content, we update, make sure that we're ready to go with with their new releases. So that's really, all of Yext will be supported. The only supported content type in Yext that we translate today is locations, and that's definitely the most prominent, most important. But in the future, as we have additional customers that need these other content types, which you can see down at the bottom of the slide here, the pages, product catalogs, reviews, these items, we have a foundation in place that we can add these upon request and as needed. So if you are working with Yext and you don't see a content type here that you need to translate, let us know, and we can look at adding that and have some conversations with you about your use case around that. It is a hosted integration, and this is what we call it's our version of a hosted integration. And what that means is the technology and the integration is actually hosted in the Smartling platform and integrated directly with the Smartling project. And this makes it so that you have a lot of our pre-existing features and benefits of our other integrations that you can consume right on day one of using this integration. So that's one of the main benefits there of using our hosted integration. Context can be challenging with Yext because Yext doesn't provide its own context, right? They just kind of allow you to go in and manipulate and create these locations and these data points, but then other tools bring them in, right? So you have search engine optimizations that are, SEO engines pulling them in, different websites pulling them in and displaying them. So you need to get, there are ways to accomplish that, and we have tools in place to help with that context and aid where that's maybe, not available inside of Yext. And so we have a Chrome extension and other methods of capturing that context for our linguists. It's really helpful for them, to have that visual context when they're translating to make sure that they get, the most accuracy that they can.
It's worth noting about context that when we open up Yext, which we're about to do for a demo purpose, is all of the strings in the Yext product are entered in a very simple format. And remember, all of that content is scaled to multiple distribution points. So the context is actually going to change based on where it's going to be viewed. But one way that you could work around that is to show an example of where the content would be displayed and to attach a screenshot with a string. There are also many, many tools that are built into Smartling that enable you to provide more detailed information about the content you're trying to translate, whether it's through comments, character length limits. You can attach a brief for every single translation job. You can attach screenshots so you can show what it will look like. And of course, if you're using our translation services, you have the ability to communicate directly with the translator. You'll know their name so that you can easily satisfy all of your goals with translating Yext content. Stephen, why don't we jump in and take a look at how this integration actually works?
Yeah, so let's jump over the demo here. Let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, can you guys see that?
Yes, we can.
Okay, wonderful. So what we're looking at here is the Yext dashboard, where you log into Yext and you manage the different entities is what they call them. So each one of these locations that get created is called an entity. And you can see we have a whole bunch of locations that we've created and we're managing inside of our demo environment. You have the ability to sort these, by labels, by folders, and kind of organize them the way you want to organize them here in Yext. But ideally, when we get into these, we talked about hotels earlier, so this is a good example. It kind of lines up nicely here. Is we have this hotel of hotels content. Let's see, right here. And what it is like you can imagine a user's in here inside of Yext, they're creating a new hotel, they give it an address, and then they need to type in some description about all of the amenities. We talked about the amenities before. So here's where a user would be in here updating all of the amenities available on this specific hotel property, making sure it's in sync. Over here on the right-hand side, you have your languages. And you can see right now we're currently just in English. So we don't have any translated content in this case. But we want to translate this, so we want to get it available in the new languages. We want to make sure that this gets released into the additional markets. And what we can do from here is inside of Smartling, I'm going to switch tabs now and go into the Smartling platform. And inside of Smartling, I have a project that's called the Yext Connector Test. And this specific project is already connected up to that Yext environment we were just looking at. They're already communicating with API. There's a secure connection that's already established. And what it's doing here on the Yext tab that we're on here is pulling in a list of all of the locations that exist inside of that Yext environment. And it's allowing us to then, request translation, check on status of the translation and those types of things. So here you can see we have some stuff in progress. We have some not translated. I have some completed translations. So you can kind of see what the status is of all of those existing locations. On the left, you have the ability to sort and filter and also search by specific entity IDs. Maybe if there's a specific Yext location you're after, you can grab the ID from Yext, put it in here and search for it and easily find what you're looking for. But let's go ahead and send the translations for this new hotel of hotels here. So we select it. We're going to go ahead and request translation. And this is going to allow us to, create a new job name. And we can also add in a special description for, our linguists or our project managers that maybe are going to jump in and help with this. And then you can also select which languages you want to translate into. I'm going to go ahead and select, French, and maybe we do Spanish as well. Let's go ahead and save this job. And that's going to go ahead and what this is now doing is reaching into Yext via API, grabbing that location data and pulling it into our system and inserting it into a job, where it then goes through the parsing process where we strip away, all of the non-translatable code or text that's not translatable for our linguists, and we just really build segments and allow sentences that our linguists can then see without having to translate all of the inside of all of the code, for example. And so now it's inserted into a project. You can specify what type of workflow you want to use. So we at Smartling we do machine translation. We can do professional grade translation. We can do a mixture of different types of translation. So here you would apply what type of workflow you're looking for. Generally speaking, with Yext, you're going to use a professional grade translation here. So we're going to go ahead and hook it up with project defaults. I'm going to authorize this job. And then now the work gets kicked off. So the workflow is going to start inside of our system. It's going to assign out to the linguists. And we're going to go ahead and move forward with the translation here. So let's close that down.
And as you're pulling that up, Steven, it's worth noting that whole process that you just demonstrated is not the process you would have to go through every single time. You can set up jobs automation, right?
Yeah, you should be able to so we can set up rules to automatically send certain sets of content, based off of some search parameters, or if you're modifying existing stuff and we've already translated it, we have technology already watching those for changes as you're modifying and then packaging those up and sending them automatically into our system. That's correct.
Yeah. So even though that process was a multi-step process and didn't take very long, we can even eliminate all of the work that Steven just showed you and make it even simpler.
Yep, agreed. All right, so in the job section here, let's move over. And we have our new job. It's in progress. I'm going to go into this new job. We have the French Canadian here and the Spanish that we can translate. So I'm going to quickly, perform the translation on this just to get something completed here. And we're going to use machine translation just for demo purposes. I don't speak Spanish, so we wouldn't be able to translate all of this. Now, down here on the bottom, you see all of the strings that are part of the amenities, right? So that's what we were managing inside of the description field inside of Yext. And you can see now we've provided a translation for each one of those amenities. And on the right-hand side, this is where you would have, translation memory leveraging and terminology lists being applied, and the linguists ought to be automatically served up those types of matches during the translation process to use and aid them in their translation. Quality assurance and issue management is all included inside of Smartling too. So this is how they would participate in those functions. Now let's go ahead and save this since we have a completed translation. I'm going to save all the strings. And it's going to come back, tell us our job is completed now. And, the linguist at this point is done. They're finished. This is going to send, a notification, and the project manager inside of Smartling is going to know, hey, now I have, a finished language. So we can come back in here and take a look. And here we have now Spanish is completed. And it does take a couple moments for our integration to recognize Spanish is completed. It's going to then make some API calls out to the Yext environment to deliver the translated content and check those translations into Yext. It takes 2 to 3 minutes or so. So let's give that a moment. Any questions from you, maybe Adrian, while we're waiting? Anything you want to add?
No, I think maybe what I would add is just generally on the left side, what's cool about Smartling is that you can see all of the words that are in the job or in the, in this specific project. Right now, the cost estimates is not generating here, probably because we just haven't configured the rates in this specific project. But ordinarily, you would know exactly how much money you're going to spend based on the number of strings that you've submitted in words and how many of those words have been previously translated in Smartling, which would be from your translation memory. That would reduce your cost for translating this content.
Yep, exactly. Yep, and that's right. It's not configured on this project. Maybe it's something we can set up in the future. But all right, so let's go check inside of Yext here. What we can see is we'll know when it's delivered. We can always check inside of the progress here on the specific entity and location in here. So we have the hotels and hotels. You can always pop open this little information icon, what we call our asset details. And here it will give you a language by language breakdown of where it's at. So you can see the green actually indicates it has been delivered. It is completed with translation and has been delivered. So let's go back into our Yext environment and let's check on the translation here. So I'm gonna refresh this. You see over here, no languages right now. Hopefully we should get some languages here, at least one additional one. Let's refresh. All right, there we go. So you can see the Spanish language has now been added. And I go into the Spanish, and here we can see the translated title of the hotel, translated address. You can also see all the translated descriptions and amenities here. And so this is where, the power of the integration is really at play. So one, we've eliminated any type of spreadsheets where people are keeping track of like, hey, this property, we made changes to the description field and to the title field and maybe the definition fields. You can see that Yext provides, hundreds of fields here for you to update on your content. And it's important to note that we actually have configurations in place inside of the integration that lets you tell us, should we translate this field or should we not translate this field? And then what type of translation or text should we expect to be in the field? Is it HTML? Is it plain text? What long text, the kind of just different types of fields, have different parsers for us to make sure we parse the correct way. So as you're making changes to the, your content, we can recognize this stuff and automatically, handle it appropriately. So yeah, that's it for the demonstration.
Yeah, what I love about this, and for those of you who are making the connection right now, Yext has the infrastructure to support multi-language content. They don't have the infrastructure to actually translate the content. That's what we do. And through this integration, which is listed on their app directory, they have the ability, you as the customer of Yext has the ability to automatically submit all of your Yext content to Smartling and then retrieve it into Yext, where Yext does all of the hard work of categorizing the content and distributing it out to different consumption points in the right language. So Yext has built an awesome tool here that fully supports translation and localization infrastructure and makes it really easy for you to scale your content into multiple languages in partnership with Smartling. One of the other aspects, Steven, that I think is just so cool about this integration is that this is something that you could implement right now in a matter of minutes and be receiving translated content within days. No professional services are required to get started. It's all set up through authentication, OAuth authentication. We've got great documentation on all of this so that we can help you get started quickly. And it really is a breeze to get this project set up in Smartling. Is there anything that you wanted to add on that, Steven, the setup?
Yeah, I would say in our experience, the couple of customers we've implemented have been extremely easy, and literally it took them to establish a Yext user inside of their Yext environment that they want to connect with and that has access to all of the locations. They create a project in Smartling. They go sign in with that user, and it automatically hooks it all up. They have to go and configure the fields to make sure we translate the fields that they want. But outside of that, it doesn't take any developer work, any kind of technical person to get involved. It's very straightforward and very easy. And you're off to the races. You can leverage all of your existing workflows inside of Smartling that you've already established, any translation memories that you've already established. All of those will be immediately available from you on day one of installation.
In everything we do, we want to get our customers realizing value through our products and services immediately, as soon as possible. That's why we made this tool easy to implement. I mentioned already that this is the first and the only translation integration to be listed on the Yext App Directory. We built this tool in partnership with Yext. They're really excited about this tool, and we have so much room ahead for growth in terms of how we work with one another, and we're super excited about that. A couple of notes about the Yext integration. It is a piece of software that is $7,500 for an annual license. We do charge for our integrations, and this is one of them that we feel like delivers extreme worthwhile value to have a price tag on. So if you're interested in the Yext integration, it is $7,500. And as I mentioned, there are no pro services needed, so you can really spin this up as soon as today, and we'd love to get you onboarded as quickly as possible. If you'd like to learn more about the integration, you can go to smartling.com/Yext. There's a whole lot of information on our landing page about the integration. And actually, Kelsey dropped the link into the chat already, so you can just click on that link and start discovering more about the integration. And we're going to send, at the end of today's webinar, we're going to send over a product overview that helps you understand a little bit better, or summarizes rather, all of the information that we've conveyed in today's webinar, so that you can think on this, share it with some folks on your team, maybe pass it to the digital marketing group so that they have a little bit more insight and visibility into what you're curious about when it comes to translating and localizing Yext content. But that is really what we wanted to convey today, Steven. I think those are the main points of the integration, but is there anything that you feel we may have missed or that you wanted to revisit?
No, I think that was great. Thank you, Adrian. Appreciate everybody's time today and for watching our webinar and coming and learning about our new product. It's been exciting to work on, so we're happy to share it with you.
Yeah, you've done great work on this, Steven, and our team is really proud of you and the developers who've put this together. And thank you to everybody who's joined the webinar today. It's so great to have everyone who's interested in the Yext integration, and we look forward to seeing you at our future events. In fact, we've got an amazing event tomorrow with Sid Eframovich. You can head on over to smartling.com/globalready to learn more about that workshop. And we've got other webinars that you can learn about and other online events that are listed at smartling.com/globalready. Thank you so much, Steven. And thank you to everybody who's joined. I hope you have a great rest of your day and a great week.
See you later. Thank you.
Take care.